Hi, I'm Riley. I'm doing an original oratory. It's entitled AIDS, We're Not Done Yet. Remember the first time you saw one of those television commercials where you were asked to sponsor or donate money to the cause? It was horrifying knowing that those children were in trouble, wasn't it? Now, I bet you've seen those commercials 100 times, if not more. So, what do you do now when they come on TV? Do you change the channel? Throw the laundry in the dryer? Let your dog out? Anything but watch? That's message fatigue. What if I start talking about AIDS? Do you start to think about that test you have next week or what's for supper tonight? You've heard it all, right? I think we're experiencing message fatigue about AIDS and HIV in America. But please, don't tune out now. You haven't heard it all. We've come a long way with AIDS treatment and research, but we're not done yet. We can't be done yet. We can't turn the channel now because if we aren't careful, our progress against AIDS could be undone. We could actually go backwards. Today, I'm going to talk about why we need to keep fighting AIDS and HIV here in America, and why we should care about AIDS in other countries. Raise your hands if you know what HIV stands for. Okay, so my guess was off. I guess around half of you, but less than. My guess was wrong. HIV is human immunodeficiency virus, and AIDS stands for acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. 1981 is the first time we heard about AIDS and the epidemic began. Since then, well over 500,000 people have died of AIDS in the US. More than any other industrialized country in the world. That's more than the entire population of Las Vegas. Naturally, people were terrified of this killer disease that was spreading in epidemic proportions. And so, the prevention and education campaigns began. 30 years later, we've heard the messages. We understand how AIDS is passed from person to person. We've learned the importance of AIDS testing. Many of us have learned not to fear AIDS the way we used to, that it's not transmitted the way we used to think it was. So things are getting better, right? Well, somewhat. A person infected with AIDS can live a completely normal life if they have the medication they need. They can do everything you and I do. The Bill Gates Foundation reports that in 2003, 400,000 people were getting medication for AIDS. Today, over 3 million people are. That's progress. But the medication for AIDS and HIV can cost anywhere from $200 to $2,200. That's for one medication. Oftentimes, AIDS patients are on more than one medication to get the treatment that they need. Really expensive, especially since most of the people with AIDS are poor. But in spite of increased testing and awareness about AIDS in the US, there are currently more than 1 million people living with AIDS. The scary thing is that about 1/5 of them are unaware of their infection. That's a lot of people who will be spreading this disease to their partners and their children. In our country, the incidence of AIDS overall has decreased, especially with intravenous drug users due to the clean needle exchange programs. That's good, but AIDS continues to increase with some groups, including minorities, straight women, and gay men. In 2009, in Washington, D.C., 3% of the population 12 years and over was living with AIDS. That's about the same rate as in sub-Saharan Africa, where the AIDS epidemic is most critical. So we're doing something about that, right? Well, something is being done, but it's not meant to help. There's currently a bill before Congress that proposes massive cuts to both the domestic and global AIDS funding. In fact, this bill even prohibits the District of Columbia from spending money on their syringe exchange programs. It cuts AIDS research funding by $1.6 billion. It also derails the Affordable Care Act, which provides the health care to hundreds of thousands of people infected with AIDS. In addition, the proposed bill cuts over $500 million from our humanitarian efforts to prevent entry AIDS in foreign countries. Places like sub-Saharan Africa. In 2009, 1.3 million people there died of AIDS-related causes. You may ask, why should I care about what happens happens way over in Africa. Well, I'll tell you. Health officials are already reporting that the lack of funding for AIDS there has people splitting pills and taking less than their necessary dose of medication. This could cause the AIDS virus to mutate and become resistant to the drugs that we already have to treat it. That would be disastrous to the whole world. We should understand that the worst challenges impacting our world today, human trafficking, pandemic diseases, terrorism, and so on, most often come from third world countries. This is where AIDS came from in the first place. If we are not careful, we will see a mutated strand from Africa, and it will come to America. And changing the channel can't stop that. According to estimates from the 2010 AIDS epidemic update, around 30.8 million people and 2.5 million children were living with HIV worldwide at the end of 2009. If you ask me, that number is way too high. It has to get better than that. So today, I've been talking to you about AIDS, but as a society, we're just not talking about AIDS as much anymore. Maybe people don't want to hear the facts because then they'll feel compelled to help. Some people are just afraid of what they don't know. Some people think this problem is going away. As I've explained today, things are better. But we're not done yet. We need to continue to work hard to keep progress against the disease moving. World AIDS Day is December 1st, and National HIV Testing Day is June 27th. There are a lot of awareness days out there. I encourage you all to bring awareness to HIV and AIDS research, education, and treatment. I also urge you to contact your congressional representatives and tell them that we can't cut back on AIDS funding now. We all know our country is trying to find ways to cut back on spending, but cutbacks on AIDS funding now could be very costly to us later. Ignoring this problem will not make it go away. In fact, it could get worse. We're not done. We still have a lot of work to do. So please, support AIDS research and treatment funding. Most of all, don't turn away. Don't stop working, and don't forget.